The next topic, according to the message I sent out, because I'm trying to use that. If not, I'll start teaching Python full course. All right, the next topic we want to look at is conditionals. Conditionals.
Okay.
Now, whenever I'm teaching a class, I really like using real life example to explain things, because if not, if we do programming, brain go knock, even my own showing. So, conditionals. What are conditionals? Take, for example, you wake up in the morning and you don't sleep. I mean, you did not eat when going to sleep at night. You know, of course, you wake up very hungry. Then you now wake up in the morning and you say, there's no rice at home. Let me just make noodles. Did you know what you have just made? That thing you have made right now, we call it a decision, right? You have just made a decision. Now, every day in our lives as human beings, we are always making decisions. Our ladies now finish bathing and they know they are going to the next street. They'll be contemplating, should I wear makeup or not? I'm not going far. What are they doing? Making decisions. As a guy, football match day, Man U, Chelsea, they play at the same time. Now one TV you get. You make a decision based on, okay, I think I'm a Chelsea fan, so let me watch Chelsea match first. What you have just done is a decision you've just made. Your salary enter, you contemplate, now only 2 shirts I get like 4 trousers. So let me buy 2 more shirts since I have more trousers. You have just made a decision. Now, in programming, sometimes we might want to give our code the ability to make decision based on some conditions. And then based on those conditions, we will tell it to either do this or do that. Have you been to some sites where they ask you a question? There are some sites now as a Nigerian you can't visit. They will tell you it only works for people in their particular country. There are some sites like that. Or look at these sites that only allow people that are 18 plus to visit. The moment you enter, they ask you your age, you put 16, they tell you no. So now, in real life, we make decisions every day. So in our code, we can also make those decisions too. And in Python, we do this using what we call the if-else code block. Now, let me show you a simple example. Let's create a variable called age and put 16 inside of it. Now, watch a decision. I will say if, that's a code block. Python recognizes that statement there. Now, I'm saying if age is greater than or equal to 18, okay? Now, this is another code block. We've talked about whenever you see semicolon, be expecting a code block next, right? We did it in functions. So this is another code block. So I'm saying if age is greater than or equals to 18, print I am an adult. I think something is okay. I wanted to say, why am I getting that error? Now, note, I've commented out all the code I've been writing before now. I only have these lines here. So let's execute this program and see what we expect. Run. Did you see nothing show? Who can tell us why nothing is showing? It's simple. Our condition to print I am an adult was not met. Age is 16, and we are saying print I am an adult if age is greater than or equals to 18. Is 16 greater than or equals to 18? Did you catch that there? But watch what happens when I make age 20 and I run this program again. Did you see it printed I am an adult?
Yeah.
Good. So this is just what conditions is all about. Giving your code the ability to run based on a factor. Okay? That is what conditions is basically all about. All right? Now, with that being said, now there's another part of this if code block we have written that I've not written, and let me write it now. Now, in everyday life, when you are making decisions too, there are some things that can make the decision change. For example, let me say I like eating Indomie and egg every morning. And then one day I get to the kitchen, I am very hungry. Normally, I know when I'm hungry and I go to the kitchen, my main mission is to make Indomie and egg. But that day I got to the kitchen, I only met Indomie, no egg. And I am very hungry. What do? I will have to cook only the Indomie like that without the egg. What have I done now? I've made another counter decision, like another decision over the existing one. What I basically means is, if there is Indomie and egg, cook. Else, cook only Indomie. Or otherwise, we'll call it otherwise in this case now. All right? So let's look at it in that condition now. For example, we are saying if age is greater than or equals to 18, print I am an adult. But what if age is not up to that? What should the code do? We can do that by putting an else block. So we'll say else print I am a child. Did you see that? Now, if I run this, which do you think would print? Is it I'm an adult or I'm a child?
Child.
Look at the code again very well. Age is equals to 20.
It's greater. Yeah.
So you see that age is actually greater than 18. So it will print I am an adult. Let's execute. Do you see it? But what if I make this 15? Which do you think we execute?
Child.
Perfect.
I am an adult.
That's just no child in this case, because age is not greater than or equal to 18. Okay. Now, did you see this condition here? You can actually play around. There are different conditions you can play around with. After this class, I'll drop a link to an article that will introduce you to the different conditions we have. There is actually less than or equal to, or you can just say equal to, or you can do less than, or you can do those logic operators in mathematics. You can do all of them here. Okay, but I'll drop a link to an article that would explain more on that after the class. For those of you that are not in the Tech Leap community, that's where I mostly paste any resource. So what I will do is on the chat, let me open our chat. Check the chat. I'll paste a link to the Tech Leap community. Where is that Tech Leap? Yeah, this is it here. I'll paste a link to the community. Where is the link? Invite with group link. Let me copy the link. Okay, perfect. So I'll paste that link there. Those of you that want to join can join with that. That's where I'll paste an article there on most of these conditionals, so you read up on it. All right, with that being said, that is just that with if and else. Now there is another block you can have here, which is like another else if block. Now I'll add it to the code, then I would explain it. Now there is another block we can have called an else if. Now the difference between if and else if is this is like an aftermath. Like if this is not true, try out this condition. So let's put a condition here. Let's make this code a bit more clear. Let's do something like if age is greater than or equal to 30, it should print I am an adult. Okay, let's do 40. It should print I am an adult. Else, if age is greater than or equal to 30, it should print I am a youth. Although I know this doesn't really cover the scenario, but I think you will get it. Will still quite kind of explain what we are doing. Oh, let's do 18 here. All right, now to quickly explain this code, this is what we have here now. If this program runs, what's the first condition we have here? It's checking if age is greater than. It's checking if age is greater than or equal to 40. Now, let's try to run this code the same way we expect it to execute. Is age equal to or greater than 40?
So it's less than.
It's less than. So this condition here will be false. It won't execute, right? Exactly. What of this one? Is age. Now, if this condition is false, by default, it will move to the next condition that we have here. What's this condition saying? It's saying else if age is greater than or equals to 18. Is age greater than or equals to 18? Exactly. So this will not run again. Then it will move to this part, which is the else, like at all, whatever happens, this one would always run.
Like after you have gone through the first.
You say what?
Like after you have gone through the first.
Exactly. So if all of this, if none of this executes, this one will execute. But note, if this one had execute, this other two will not execute. If this one executes, this middle one, this one will not execute. So this else part is like, if none of the ones at the top executed, that means it should be you. All right, that is what that is doing there. That is what that is doing there. So for those of us who don't, anyone with a question on this? Anyone with a question on that? No question. All right, good. So that means we understand conditionals in that sense. We understand conditionals in that sense. Now, the last topic okay.
You said greater than, less than operators. Is that only operator you can use?
No, there are actually a lot of them. But the truth is, we can't really go through every one of them in this class. That's why I said I'll drop, if you check the chat of this Google Meet now, I've dropped a WhatsApp link there. That's the Tech Leap community where I post mostly. So I'm going to post a link to an article in that group after this class that would explain the different conditions you can have there.
I'm not part of that group.
I would, yeah, just click on the link and join. It's actually a public group. So if you click on the link, you will join straight.
Okay.
So just check the chat. If you click on the link, you will join straight. All right. So that is for that. That is for that. Now let's quickly talk about the last topic. Then before we ask questions and all that, the last topic I wanted us to talk about. This is actually a very important topic. Is loops. Loops. Now, there are different types of loops, but we'll be focused on one type. In this, although if we have time, we might look at other types, but we'll majorly be looking at the for loop for now. Now, what is a loop? Jog our memories a bit, for those of us that did science in school. You remember the simple pendulum our physics teachers used to show us, where they tie a very heavy metal to a rope, and then they swing the rope and it keeps going back and forth. For those of us who don't remember that, at least you've been to children playground and you see that there is this swing, okay, that they used to just, once you push them once, it continues to go back and forth. Now, if you look at the movement of that thing can be likened to a loop. A loop is just an event that keeps occurring the same way over and over and over and over and over again. So in programming, we have loops. Now, to give you an example of that, let me say I ask you now to write numbers between 1 to 1 million. Okay? Write a program that will print numbers between 1 to 1 million. Now, if you want to do that with what you know so far, do you want to be doing print 1 print? Is this what you want to be doing? 2, and then you want to do this up to 1 million? Then at the end of the day, why are you writing program? Do we catch the thing there? Now, the thing is this. If you look at numbers very well, okay, if you look at numbers very well, you know what, before we do numbers, let's do something simpler. Let me say I tell you to write a program to print hello world 20 times. Write a program to print hello world 20 times. Now, with your current knowledge, you'll probably just be doing print hello world, next line, print hello world, next line, print hello world. You will do it 20 times and that will work. But that is not convenient, right? What you can do is you use a loop in Python. Like I said, what is a loop? It is just an event, okay, that keeps happening, reoccurring over and over and over again. To write a loop in Python, we are focusing on the for loop, okay? We use the for keyword. So we just say for, then you put the condition for the loop there. In this case now, for I would explain what I'm writing. Just try to watch it. For I in range 0 to 20, I would explain it. Don't worry about the code. Print. It seems it's now most people are joining. Oops. Where is that code? All right. For I in range 0 to 20, we want to print hello world. All right, good. Now, let me explain what this does. But before we do that, let's actually see if the code runs. Before I start explaining, only to discover it won't run. But it should. Did you notice hello world how many times on my console? Let me rerun it so you see it. Did you notice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20. Did you notice that? Now, I only did print hello world one time, but it printed out 20 times. That is because I wrapped this piece of code with a loop. Now, let's understand what this loop is doing. Now, whenever you want to write a loop in Python or generally in programming language, there is something we always try to avoid, and that is what we call an infinite loop. Now, what is an infinite loop? An infinite loop is a loop that has no ending. It never ends. It keeps going on and on and on and on and on. Anytime you have infinite loop, just know that your program will always be crashing. Okay? Those of us that do web development, let me give you a simple assignment. Go to JavaScript and write an infinite loop and watch your web browser crash or hang. Now, because we want to try to avoid having infinite loop in our code, whenever we are writing for loops in Python, we used to attach a condition to it. The condition is that when you reach this certain extent, please stop, don't continue. Now, we wanted to print hello world how many times? 20 times, right? Are we together? Hello, guys.
Yes.
All right. So we wanted to print hello world 20 times. Now, in Python, we have this range function in Python that can give us a range of numbers. Now, I've told it should use range 0 to 20. 0 to 20 is basically how many? So 0, 1, 2, 3. Between 0 and 20, what are the numbers between 0 and 20? That should be 0 to 19, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is what this range is doing. So we are basically telling this that give me in a range of 0 to 19, I want you to print hello world. Basically, we are telling it print hello world 19 times. If I increase this to 50, how many times do you think it will print hello world? Exactly 50 times. Okay, now this is one type of a loop, which is a for loop. Now, the good thing with this loop is that using this same scenario, I can actually write numbers from 1 to 20. I can write numbers from 1 to 20. Okay, so in that case, let's start this from 1, not 0 anymore, and leave this at 20. Now, if we leave this at 20, it will not get to 20, it will stop at 19. But let me run it first so that when it stops there, I will explain why it does that. So, instead of printing hello world, watch this. Instead of printing hello world, I will print I. We said I, right? So, I will print I. Oh, I think I've not explained how the for loop even runs. So let me quickly explain it. Let's write it from beginning. At least we have seen it in action now. Let's do the explanation. To use a for loop, you just say for, then you give a variable name. Before I said I, okay, but this time let me call it for number in range 0, 20. What I've basically said is that for every number you meet in the range of 0 to 20, run this code I will have in this code block. So who can guess how many times this code block here will run? How many numbers do we have between 0 and 20? We have about 20 numbers. Exactly. We have 20 numbers, which is 0 itself. Now, this thing works in this way. Let me quickly explain how this range works. It will start from this number, but it will not get to this number because 20 is not inclusive. So it will stop at 19. I don't know why it's like that in Python, but that's how it is. So normally when you want to print numbers from 0 to 19, you actually do, numbers from 1 to 19, you do 1, 20. You add 1 to the last number. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah.
So exactly. So if I want numbers from 1 to 25, what will I put inside this range now?
1 to 26.
Exactly, 1 to 26. So always add 1 to the last number here because the last number here is always non-inclusive. So that means 20 is not included. If you want it to actually get to 20, you pump it up by 1. Now, so it be no be me, right? I mean myself, when I discover I be vexed, but there's nothing I can do about it. All right. So now, basically, what this for loop will do is for every number it finds in the range of 1 to 21, it will run this code for that number of time. And we know between 1 to 21, we have 20 numbers there, which means this our for loop will run 20 times. Now, the trick here is I can print, somebody is just joining again. All right. The trick here is that I can print the number itself instead of printing, before we were printing hello world inside here. So instead of printing hello world, let's try to print the number itself. Oops. Let's print the number itself. If I go ahead and run this piece of code now, you will discover that we have successfully written a Python program to print numbers from 1 to 20. And you can see it in action. You know what? Let me share this terminal. I don't like the position of this terminal. I think I can move it to the right. Appearance, let me see, layout. I should be able to relocate this terminal to go to a different section. No, not that. End this, run this. Okay, I've created too many terminals. Let me end most of them. How do I use to move this terminal? I usually move it. It happens sometimes. You forget how you do these things. Appearance. Where is terminal? I can't find it. Let's leave it there. But normally I should be able to move it to the right there. Okay, good. So if I run this program again now, you discover that we have successfully written a program that will print numbers from 1 to 20. So if I give you an assignment now to write a program that will print numbers from 1 to 1,000,000, all you need to do is just say 1,000,000 and that would work. Now, this is a loop in Python. What is a loop again? A loop is just a piece of code, okay, that can run over and over and over and over again. But like I said, one catch in programming is that we always try to avoid having an infinite loop. An infinite loop is a loop that does not have end. It keeps on running. Most times, when you have infinite loop in your code, your program will always hang. For those of you doing web development, you can try that out. Write a JavaScript for loop that has no end. You will see that your browser is hanging, even if you just have one tab open. All right, so that is a for loop there. Now, I did not want to talk about the second type of loop, but since we have time, I'll quickly introduce it to you guys, and you can go read more on it. Now, do we have any question on the for loop before I let that go? Any question on the for loop? No question? Okay.
I do have a question.
All right.
Like for example, you said number from ranges of 1 to 20.
Yes.
The numbers are always going to be in the vertical, right? It can't be like side by side.
And it's because of the way we are running print. In Python, when you use print, it will print it line by line. And I don't want to go too much in details about that, but I'll share a link that should explain some of those things later. Just join the group and ask this question again so I don't forget. All right. But now, I think some of us are kind of confused. There is Mabel still with us. Hello, Mabel. I've not heard your voice since again. Mabel, are you still with us? Okay, yeah, you are still with us. I can see you are active. All right, good. Okay, where are we getting? All right, good. Now, let's quickly run together how this for loop runs one more time so that we will know how the result we are getting here is working. Now, we already know the definition of a for loop. Okay, it's a piece of code that runs over and over and over again until a certain condition is met. Now, what is this condition? The condition here is that for the range of 0 to 21, we want to print all the numbers in between there. This is how this loop will run. Now, what are the numbers we have between 1 and 21? That is 1 to 20, right? So the program will start. Yeah. Okay, for number in range 0 to 21, print number. What is the first number in that range? 1, right? Boom. Yeah. It will print 1. That loop now has run one time. But don't forget, a loop will keep on running until the condition is met. And the condition is until you get to 21. Good. So the next one, what is the next number? 2. It prints 2. The loop will run again. What is the next number? 3. It prints 3. The loop runs until it gets to 20. When it gets to 20, it will print 20. Now, it comes back and it says for numbers in range 1 to 21. Oh, 21 is no more part of it. The loop will stop running. So basically, a loop is just a piece of code that runs over and over again until a particular condition is met. Until that condition is met, the loops continue running. Just like that swing in the playground. When there is enough force on it and you push it, it keeps going back and forth until the force reduces it and it becomes still. Do we get the trick there? Okay, good. Now, let's quickly talk about the last type of loop. I had actually planned for us to build a project together today, but with the way my inverter is shouting, and I don't know, it's because of the weather, that panel is not charging it, and it's pissing me off. In this country where we can't even trust our power holding company. They are really holding the power. All right. Are they not holding it? All right. So let's quickly talk about the last loop. Even if that's all I can do, I wish I could work on the project, but let's see. Now, there's this other kind of loop we have, which we call the while loop. Now, unlike the for loop that we can pass the range to, the while loop can actually work with the range, but it's a bit more flexible. Okay, we don't have to use the range in a while loop. Let me show you a typical example. Let's say I have a variable called num equals to 10. Okay, and for as long as this num is greater than 0, okay, I want to keep printing something to the console. But the moment the num is equal to 0, I want to stop. Did you get the trick? So as long as num is greater than 0, I will be printing my name to the console. But the moment num is equal to 0 or less than 0, I will stop. Now, see while loop in action. To use the while loop, you just say while oops, you just say y num is greater than 0. That's the condition. What do I want to do? I want to print my name. You know what? Let's reduce this number to something small so we don't get a very long print. Y num is greater than 0. I want to print my name, Stephen, to the console. Now, watch this. Let me comment out this one because we don't need this anymore. This is okay with us. I'll go ahead and execute this now. Oops, I've got into an infinite loop. Did you see what I was complaining about? I told you guys about this earlier, right? Are you watching my console? If you watch this bar, you see that the bar is still going, which means this code is still running.
Yes, it's still running.
I have just entered what I was warning you guys about, an infinite loop, which is a loop that keeps, you see that the bar is still going up. And if I try to scroll to the bottom, I will never, you see that it's still typing. Did you notice that blinking there? It's still typing. This is what we call an infinite loop now. A piece of code that is in a loop and it keeps running. So this code now has probably printed my name more than 1,000,000 times. At least I'm famous. but this is an infinite loop. Now, why is this an infinite loop? Let me end this program. Now, in Python, it's very easy to break out of an infinite loop. But if this was a web project, you have to close your browser to break out of an infinite loop. Now, let's try to get why this program got into an infinite loop. Let's see if we can get the reason. Now, we said num is equals to 3, right? Now, we are telling it that y num is greater than or equal to 0. It should print what? It should print Stephen. Now, let's run this code now. Is num greater than or equals to 0?
Yes.
Num is greater than 0, so it will go ahead and print Stephen. But because this is a loop, after printing Stephen, it will come back to the condition again. That is how loop runs. When they run, they come back to the condition. Now, what is the condition again? Is num greater than or equals to 0 again? Is it true? Is 3 greater than or equals to 0? Exactly. So it will print Stephen again. Once it's done printing Stephen, it will come back to the condition again. Is 3 greater than or equals to 0 again? It's still greater than. Now, you guys agree with me that this condition would always be true. True of us. 3 would always be greater than 0. And that is a perfect condition for an infinite loop. A condition that will never be false. Because an infinite loop, a loop will continue running as long as the condition is true. Num is 3. And 3 would always be greater than 0. Boom, we've put ourselves inside an infinite loop. Now, how can we fix this? What we can do is, inside the while loop, I can write a line of code to be reducing 3 every time this code runs. So what I can do is, inside this code now, after I've printed Stephen, I can come here and say num is equal to num minus 1. Did you see that trick there? I would explain it, but I want to be sure most of the people that are joining us for the first time, I know most of you are joining for the first time, but I think Mabel said this is her first, she's new to Python. Mabel, are you still following us? Just wave your hand so that I know. All right, good. I have about 9 orders here. Okay, good. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of hands waving. All right, perfect. Which means you guys are at least still catching up. I know it's not easy, but thank you guys for catching up. But don't worry, we'll be having... Okay.
Sorry.
All right. You have a question?
Please, how do I stop this infinite loop?
That's what we want to... Okay. You too, you enter infinite loop. Hey, yeah. Okay, so to stop your infinite loop... To stop your infinite loop, if you currently have it running, if you look at your terminal, you will notice this thing at the side here. There is one that says Python, right? Move your cursor to this side of your terminal. You should see one that says Python. Did you see it? Hello, did you see? Good. You will see a delete button with it. Go ahead and click the delete button. It will end the program. If that does not work, if that does not work, just close all the terminal by pressing this S here. That will kill all the process.
All right.
Okay, good. Now I've written a piece of code here to fix this infinite loop. Let's run the code together to see if it will do the job it's meant to do. All right. So the first time this while loop will run, what will be the value of num? Who can tell us what num will be the very first time? What did we set num to here? Num is 3 up here, which means the first time num will be 3. So the question, let's ask, is 3 greater than or equals to 0? True or false?
Yes.
Good. So it will enter inside the loop. It will print my name. Then it goes to the next line, because this line, don't forget, is still inside the while loop. It goes to the next line.
Okay.
What are we doing in this next line? We are telling it that the new value of num should be the current value of num minus 1. What does that mean? It means num currently is what? 3, right?
Yeah.
It means 3 minus 1, which we end up to make num to be what? 2. Did you see that? So now we have reduced num to 2. Then when it's done with this line, it will come back to the while loop again. In the while loop, what are we saying? Num greater than 0. What's the current value of num? 2. Is 2 greater than 0? Yes. It will enter the loop again. It will print Stephen. So it has printed Stephen twice now. It will come back to this line again. This line will minus 1 from it, which means num now is what? 1. Are we following? Yes, num now is 1. Are we following there? Good. The moment num becomes 1, it comes up here again. The current value of num is 1. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes. He enters the loop. He enters the loop again. He prints Stephen. It comes down minus 1 from num. 1 minus 1 becomes what? 0. It goes back to the condition. It goes back to the condition. Is 0 greater than 0?
No.
Exactly. That condition now is false. And because it's false, it will not run this loop again. Which means we should have Stephen printed 3 times. Let's confirm that. Let's run this code. Did you see how many times Stephen was printed? And because of this line of code here, we have omitted having and we have escaped having an infinite loop again. Did you see that?
It was greater than or equals to 0 4 times.
Yes. If you had said num greater than or equal to 0, it would have been 4 times. Because the last time when num will be 0, 0 will be equals to 0. Okay, so the condition here is very important. That's why I'll send you guys a link to an article that would explain all of those logical operators we have and even more of the things we could not talk about in this class. So that is just a loop there. That is just a loop there. Any question on that? Maybe, have you got a question on that? All right, any other person with a question? Please feel free to share your question. Let me bring the screen up again. Feel free to ask your questions, please.
Is there another method of getting 2 into 3 without num minus?
When you are working with a loop, unless you have, there is no other method here. Unless you want to use the special functions or keywords we use when working with loops. For example, oops, okay, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen now. Okay, For example, there are some special keywords we have in Python that can force a loop to end. Okay, that can force a loop to end. One of that method is the break. So when you have the break keyword inside a loop, the loop will break. But to answer your question now, break cannot help us out in this condition, because what we need to do is to reduce the value of 3. And this line of code I wrote here is the only way to reduce that value. Of course, there are different ways, there are different shortcuts we could have written this. You see this line of code, you will see it, some people will write it as num minus equal 1. You see this line of code, this thing I just wrote here, is the same thing with this line up here. It's the same thing. But the bottom line is this. If you are using the while loop, you are in charge of decreasing the value yourself. You know, when we are using a for loop, we did not have to do this. And that's because the way the for loop works is different from the way the while loop works. The for loops work on a collection. Let's say you have a basket now. Inside the basket, you have 20 items inside. And then for every item inside that basket, you want to print hello world. For loop is perfect for that. Why? Because there is a collection. There is, you know, the items inside that basket have a start number and an end number. The start number is 1, the end number is 20. You know, you have 20 items inside, which means your for loop will run 20 times. But while loop, on the other hand, does not really work on collection. Of course, you can make it work on collection. We can do that. But it's not majorly meant for working with collection. While loop works on when you want to have a counter, okay, a counter that you will be increasing. Okay, for example, let's play around with this code. Let's do this. Let me show you another simple example of this. Let me show you another simple example. Can you see my screen, please?
Yeah.
Let me show you another quick example. You know, in this condition we had here, we are using minus, right? We can actually make this to work in the opposite, where we'll be using plus. So let's say we want this to work in the other in another way, but this time we want to use plus. So let's say we'll start num from, okay, let me leave this code in case you guys want to have access to it later. Let me comment this out. Now, let's say we want to start counting from 0. Num is equals to 0. Okay, and we want to stop as 10. But while counting from 0 to 10, we want to print out Stephen. So when we start 0, we'll print Stephen. 1, we'll print Stephen. 2, Stephen. 3, Stephen. Up to 10. When we get to 10, we want to stop printing Stephen because we don't want to get into an infinite loop. So I've set my num equals to 0. I'm saying why num is greater than, okay, sorry, not greater than, why num is less than 10. Let's do less than or equal to. Why num is less than or equal to 10, we want to print what? Stephen. Now, in this case here, we can minus because, you know, we are starting from 0. So what we'll do is we plus here. So let's quickly go through how this code will run. So the first time it comes, num is equals to 0. Is 0 less than or equals to 10? Is that true or false? 0 less than or equals to 10?
True.
True, good. Which means it will run the loop, which means it will come ahead and print Stephen. Now, the next line is saying num is equals to num plus 1. What's the current value of num?
It's 0.
0, good. So it will say 0 plus 1. 0 plus 1 becomes what? 1. It comes back to this line. Is num less than or is 1 less than or equals to 10? The answer is yes. It prints this. Then it adds 1 to it again. It will keep doing it until it gets to 10. Then is 10 less than or equals to 10? The answer is yes. Why? Though 10 is not less than 10, but it's equals to 10. Which means it will print Stephen again, add 1 to 10, making it 11. Is 11 less than or equals to 10? The answer to that is no, which is false, which means this loop will not run again. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So these loops, they're actually very handy. They're actually very handy. It's because this is a one class. We can't really see examples of how to use them. Okay, but in subsequent classes, we'd actually see this. Okay, so if you've got a question, please feel free to ask. Okay, if you've got a question, feel free to ask, and I'll try my best to explain that. If you don't understand what we have done at all, or you have a random programming related question, okay, it's not just Python alone. Today is an open class. Feel free to ask.
Still on this loops.
All right.
We discussed about functions earlier.
Yes.
So we had add.
Yes.
Then we have from one position.
Yes.
Can the loops be included in a function? Like
inside a function, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. You can do that. So let's try to incorporate what you just said. And this is what I like. Okay. You see, all the things we have been doing since, it's like me teaching you the basics. The truth is, all the basics we have learned so far, you can bring them together to print, to make something very nice. Okay. So let's do this. Let's write a function, okay, that will print numbers from 1 to 50. Or not 1 to 50. Let's customize the function. Okay, this function will take in a number, which is the end number. So, for example, if somebody passes 10 to the function will print numbers from 0 to 10. If somebody passes in 20, the function will print numbers from 0 to 20. Do we get this problem?
Yeah.
Mabel, do you get it? If today is your first time, okay, if this is your first Python class, please wave your hand. Let me know you guys. You've not done Python before. It's like your first Python class. Wave your hand. Okay, Mabel. Who else again? Okay, just Mabel. Okay, I'm seeing an others. All right, please wave your hand now. I can see everybody now. Just wave your hand if today is your first Python class. Just Mabel. Okay, Mabel and Michael. Okay. All right, good. Please, if you've got questions, ask me. Okay, please feel free to ask me. Okay. All right, good. So what we want to do now is we want to write a Python program. Okay. Okay, please, that person should help us mute mic. All right, thank you. All right, thank you for that. All right, so we want to write a Python program that would print numbers from 0 to the number the person passed for us. Okay, so let's see that in action. So I'll go ahead and comment this out. Let's create a new Python file. Okay, you know we have been working with app.py. Let's create another file called, what should we call this? Let's call this main.py. You can call it whatever you like, okay? I'm just calling it what I like. In this case, main. When you are doing your own, call it anything you like. This one on my own. All right. So now, if you remember how we used to write a function, what do? We do def, right?
I'm just saying, I don't know.
Okay, I think somebody's mic is on mute and I'm getting feedback here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, no problem. Thank you, but okay. So how do we write a function? We say def, right? So let's call this function. What should we call this function? Let me explain what the function will do again. The function will take a number and print the numbers in range of 0 to that number that was passed to that function. So if you pass in 10, the function will print numbers from 0 to 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. If you pass in 21, it will print numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 21. So what do you think we should call the function?
Numbering.
Good. I like how you guys are thinking. Keep that at the back of your mind. See, if I meet a young developers that know how to name their functions, I'll feel good to work with them more than an experienced developer that does not know how to write their function. Because I know if they think of code, constantly they think of your naming convention. So that num range alone, that name alone already describe what the function wants to do. So let's call it num underscore range. You know, I told you you can use this naming convention. Good. You know, this function is going to be expecting a number, right? A single number. So let's call that number num. All right. So what do we want this function to do? It will print numbers, okay, from the range of 0 to the number the person entered. If you remember our while loop we had here, okay, let's use while loop. We can actually use for loop or while loop for this case, but let's try while loop. Maybe I'll give you an assignment of using for loop. So I'll use while loop here. You go and use for loop as an assignment. So let's see while loop in action. You remember how we used to write while loop, right? We start from the lowest, where the number wants to start from, and we say while num is less than or equal to a number. We want to go ahead and print that. So see what we are supposed to do. We will state the initial value. What number do we want to start from? We want to start from 0, right? So we will say create a variable called start, store 0 to it. Oops, store 0 to it. We will say y start is less than or equal to. You know, before we'll put 10 here straight, like we used to do here. That will say 10, right? But don't forget that the end number is coming from the num the person is putting here, right?
Yeah.
In fact, let's call this end number instead of just calling it num, so it will make sense. Let's call it end, or let's just say end instead of end number. Let's call it end. So start is equals to 0. Y start is less than or equal to end. Did you see that? Y start is less than or equal to end. We want to print start. Let's run this now. Let's run this program now. Of course, it will not run. Who can tell us why this program is not running? Look at our console, it's not running. Who can tell us why it's not running?
I don't know, maybe because of there is no return. I don't know.
Okay, you tried, but not really. Don't forget, I told you one important thing about functions. When you define a function, it is idle, it is sleeping.
Okay, you have not called it.
Exactly. So just like those our Nollywood movies, you need to invoke the gods.
You have not invoked it.
You need to invoke it's when you invoke them, they will come and misbehave. All right. So we actually have to call the function. A function is like a piece of code that is just lying there. It's like a tool that you have that you are not using. The only time it will work is when you use it. So in order to make this function execute, we'll just call num range. And you know, this function is expecting an end number. So let's pass in 15 as the end number. Let's execute this again now. Oops, it's printing 0 all through. An infinite loop again. I've forgotten we are using a while loop. Exactly. Exactly, you get it. We've forgotten to increment the num. So what we are supposed to do is we'll say num equals to num plus, not num, start.
Sorry. Yeah.
Start is equals to start plus 1. Do you see how you can enter infinite loop? Let's rerun this now. And boom, we get 0 to 15. If we play around with this again and we put 20 here now, and we rerun, it gives us up to 20. Do you see why we say functions are reusable? We wrote one program one time and we are calling it with different value and it's giving us the answer. So that's a function there. Now, your own personal assignment now would be, you see this function we have here, we are using a while loop to actually get this job done. I want you to take a personal assignment of using a for loop. When you are done, Okay, when you are done, go ahead and just screenshot your code. Okay, you can actually screenshot your code in VS Code. Okay, instead of using VS Code, just use sniping tool on your PC. There is this program called sniping tool. I'm on Windows 11, so my sniping tool might be different from your own sniping tool. This is the most latest one, but you will sure have sniping tool even if it's the old one.
Steven,
Yes.
I tried to do it. It didn't bring out any the numbering kind of.
Did you run it
I ran it.
and you did not get anything in your console?
Not at all. I followed the same process.
Okay. Did you get any error? Did you get anything like trace back something?
What is it telling me again?
You can't really get what it's telling you. Can you share your screen?
It's not the same.
Oh, you are using an external screen. I remember. Okay, try to read the trace back. Let me see if I can.
Okay, what I did was like the first, like what you typed, def num range.
Okay.
In bracket end.
Okay.
Then I start equals to 0, while starts less than and equals to end.
Okay.
Then followed by print. Oh, sorry, I've seen the error. The print start. The start was not correctly spelled.
Okay. It's good. See, as beginners, you would make errors. It's expected. Sometimes even one line of code, you will find yourself not being able to write it well.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
We cannot hear anything.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm serious.
Can you hear me now? Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect.
All right, good. So that is for that. So take an assignment of trying to
Hello? We can't hear anything. You're supposed to hear me now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me too? Check if your speaker is disconnected because I can hear you loud and clear and other people can hear me too. All right. Okay. You guys, other people, those of us in the group, those of you that can hear me, just wave your hand. Let me be certain that, you guys are with me. All right, perfect. So other people are hearing me. Just check your speaker. All right. So the assignment is this: try to replicate this function, but instead of using the while loop, try to use the for loop. When you are done, just take a screenshot of your code. Okay, this is how you can use the sniping tool. It will just screenshot your code alone as an image. See it and share it in the group for us. Let's see what you have done. But please feel free to be, how do I put this?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, excuse me.
Okay. Ask your question. Okay, let me drop a comment for you. It seems your speaker is not working. If you can see the message, that message is meant for you. Somebody is trying to join. All right, good. Okay, so back to the assignment. Try to replicate this using a for loop.
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
I think it's probably just from our end. We didn't really get majority of the whole thing. We stopped at in sniping tool.
Okay.
So it's the real thing and we were unable to understand.
All right. Okay.
Tool.
Let me go back to it. How the sniping tool works is it's just like a tool for screenshotting on system, just like you have on your phone. But the difference is that when you want to use this one, you can actually drag over the areas you want to snipe. Okay. So once you bring it up, you will see this new button on it. Click on the new button. Your system will go gray, showing you a plus sign. You can see this plus sign I have. Now, if I drag this over this area like this, it will screenshot that area. This screenshot now is an image. I can go ahead and save the image. on my system, and then after saving, I can share it as an image. You see the extension is .png. So if I save this now and I go to my desktop, see the image here. It's loading
Okay.
up. And I can share this image right now with anybody. Okay, I can share the image right now with anybody. So what I want you to do for the assignment is, when you are done with it, just snipe your code like that and share with us on the group. Please, if you're not on the Tech Lead community group, please try to be there. That's where I post most of my things. I can't belong to multiple groups and be sharing informations all around. Okay, if you are not there, the link to join is on the chat section. I don't know why my PC is slow today.
Please, can you try to use that sniping tool again? I didn't get it.
All right, let me come
Where
again.
would I put it?
Okay, this is it. Depending on your version of Windows, just hit your Windows key as if now. Hello, are you with me?
I'm with you here.
Good. Depending on the version of your Windows, just hit the Windows key as if you want to search for any application there. But now search for sniping. Just search for sniping.
Okay.
You should see sniping tool in your screen. Click on it. It should bring up, let me start all over. So I'll search for sniping. Depending on your version of Windows, the interface might look different. Because I'm on the latest Windows 11, mine is different. So I'll click on sniping tool. It will bring up an interface.
Okay.
Good. You can just click on new and then it will gray out your screen. Just drag over the area you want to snipe. It will create an image of that area. And then just go ahead and save the image and you can share with anybody. Exactly. So that's a bonus lesson for today.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right. So thank you guys for joining. Please, I will get the feedback I want from you guys is your assignments or these little assessments. Try to do it.